Betsy Clark, and I'm helping my friend Susan spread the word on her exceptional exit plan. Friday, November 8th, 2019. Sometimes I feel like an idiot. There are times I put 2 and 2 together and come up with 4, but not the right 4. What? You're wondering. 2 plus 2 equals 4. There is not a wrong 4. You're an idiot, Susan. I've mentioned that there are always at least 2 sides to every story, and now I want to explain the idea to include there are at least 2 interpretations to every side. Occasionally, we miss obvious interpretations because we are too close to the subject. In 2016, I wrote a blog for my business called, "Can You See the Forest, or Are the Trees Blocking Your View?" The blog post was about a common business issue I fixed for several of my clients, yet I had completely spaced fixing it for my own business. I'd written about the parts of my chemotherapy that I actually liked, such as my enjoyment of a strong Benadryl shot and the warmth I felt as my body was poisoned. I never really broke all the drugs out as to how they made me feel. As part of my original chemotherapy treatment, I was given 5 pre-poison drugs. I was given 3 IV pushes or shots and 2 IV drips. One of the shots was Pepsid, which, oddly enough, was not for nausea, they told me. It would help my body accept the chemotherapy better. Another shot was a 3-day anti-nausea med, and the third shot was that wonderful, stupid head dose of Benadryl. The IV drips were a 30-minute anti-nausea infusion and a 15-minute steroid infusion. And after an hour of pre-meds, I could finally start the 3-hour and 1-hour infusions of my 2 chemotherapy drugs. Today, I started a new chemotherapy treatment. Instead of spending an entire day at the hospital, I could, in theory, be in and out in 1.5 hours. I say in theory because today my appointment was scheduled at 9:40 a.m. and I was finished at 12:25 p.m. On a day that someone does not overschedule, I should be home at 12:25 and still get half my day. My chemotherapy treatment was 1 pre-med, a 15-minute steroid infusion. A port is a small medical device implanted beneath the skin that allows providers access to administer medicine to a patient directly into the veins. The nurse assessing my infusion port told me the steroid was the same dose I had received as part of my original chemotherapy treatment. At this point, I am still as dumb as a box of rocks. I get taken back to the infusion stall, and a few minutes after the steroid has been infused, and we're waiting forever for my chemotherapy drug to come from the pharmacy, a couple I'd been chatting with in the waiting room were placed in the infusion stall across from me. We were talking about a steroid, and I remembered fondly how much I liked the 2 times I was given steroids for chest inflammation before I was diagnosed with cancer. I am not really a drug addict. I'd been given a 5-day oral dose of prednisone both times, and for 5 days I did not sweat, and I was hungry. I felt invincible. Super Quad was in the house. My mean doctors would not give me more steroids because steroids inhibit wound healing. Steroids, I thought as I laid back in my wheelchair. I want steroids. And then the light bulb exploded. Every single time I left my chemotherapy treatments, I felt invigorated. I never sweated on the bus rides home or for the whole weekend. I wanted to eat until Metal Mouth hit me on Monday. It was the steroids. It was the steroids. It was the steroids. It is so obvious now that I have had another sweat-free bus ride and I'm hungry. How did I miss the connection of my Super Quad weekends and the steroids. My piece of advice to you is to not beat yourself up when you miss the forest for the trees. I may feel like an idiot sometimes, but I've never believed I was an idiot. We all have idiot moments. Laugh them off and move on. P.S. Written Saturday, November 9th, 2019. Last night, after I was in bed, I mentioned to my 24-year-old Megan my realization that I had steroid high on chemotherapy weekends. When she came back into my room before she left to say goodnight, I said, I wonder if I get steroids next week too. She shook her head and shut off the light. Perhaps cancer has made me a drug addict.